Let's take a look at the ASICS GEL-Kayano 28, which releases in June, $160. So first, a few stats. It loses some weight, about 0.35 ounces or 13 grams. I think it'll come in at about 10.76 ounces, 305 grams for a US 9, so it's under the magic 11-ounce level. It'll come in multiple widths as before, and it sees some significant changes, and I'll discuss those and also take you on a tour of the New Hampshire seacoast as I review the shoe. The Kayano is one of the best-selling shoes in running, and it is a light stability shoe. The big change this year is we get FlyteFoam Blast, lively FlyteFoam Blast, which we find in the Nova Blast as the black layer up front, and we see changes to the stability system. The Trusttic plate is now not a arched kind of thing. It is more kind of a flatter plate. And this delivers a much kind of smoother and a bit less snappy ride. The area in between at the midfoot is now filled in for a bit flatter ride. We have a segmented gel unit at the heel and a lower profile rear clip, which I think helps reduce the weight. The medial clip is a bit higher. As you can see in the 27, the clip was much higher and much more substantial. So they've slimmed things down. The changes give the shoe some bounce and a little bit softer ride and a smoother transition. And they've topped it with a really nice engineered mesh upper that is very roomy, yet holds my narrow foot very well. So a really superb upper. So first up, a little bit of a tour, and then we'll get into the fit and the ride and then the comparisons. Stay tuned. I took a nice mellow run along the New Hampshire coast, about 10-minute pace. Those rocks you see are where seals calf. About a month ago, I saw 7 or 8 of them as our local group finished its run. And then I went inland along some very pretty areas with the marshes and into Ordeorn State Park, which the military took over in World War II and put some big guns in. And I ended up at the monument that marks where the first English settlers came, a Mr. Thompson in 1623, and they did so well they were able to send fish to Plymouth Colony, which was struggling. Okay, partway through the run here, look at that beautiful marsh out there. The water's draining towards the ocean and the little shack. So let's talk about the fit of our GEL-Kayano 28. So I am a true to size here, 8.5. The front toe box room is really, really nice, very broad, super well held. Even my my right foot here, which is narrower, and if you watch the channel, I often have a problem. Some shoes fit me on my wider left foot, but don't on my right. Well, here they're both perfect. I couldn't tell the difference if I was wider or narrower in terms of my foot. ASICS has kind of tuned down the rear clutch, the exoskeleton and so on, and I like it. The heel counter feels lower, it's more comfortable, it isn't as kind of clutching, and it certainly works really well. We'll talk a bit more about the plastic plate that extends forward, maybe a touch longer than I'd like to see, but certainly not the kind of effect of a guide rail kind of approach. Midfoot, very solid, lace up. Haven't had to ever adjust these in my testing. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to talk to you a bit about the ride. So let's talk about the ride of our GEL-Kayano 28. First, by toning down the upper, the collars, all the plastic, even I think the gel, which is now segmented, and especially the Trusttic plate, which doesn't wrap up the sides, now is below what's, I think, maybe not a broader midfoot, but one that's now filled with foam. I'm going to show you what it looked like before. There wasn't any foam there. So we have a flatter kind of feel, but a very, very smooth one, because once you get past your rear stability element, and it's very, very subtle, really. It's not overwhelming in any way. Turn them around. Over on this side, you have that striated layer. That's the Dynamic Duo Max, which is a co-molded layer of slightly firmer FlyteFoam on the outside that provides kind of a little bit of a wall of stability. You notice there's the plastic clip there that extends kind of far forward. I wish it was a little lower in profile, but it's certainly not a rail-based thing like the Brooks guide rails or the Nike Infinity React. That's really a shoe I just can't stand. It has the plastic on both sides. Here, this is lower than the 27, not as massive, and I think that helps us save that 0.35 ounces or 13 grams of weight. But the real fun magic is up front, because we have FlyteFoam Blast, which is a very bouncy, exciting foam that's the same as in the Nova Blast. Lost my shoe, which we just reviewed on the channel. And what that does is instead of having FlyteFoam propel the black layer, now we have the FlyteFoam Blast, which is definitely more dynamic, and it's softer, definitely softer than what was in the 27, bouncier. And also, I'll show you, we've got great flexibility here. So what happens is, as you land, you do feel the elements of stability, but not as any kind of sharpness. There's no feeling of a post, because there really isn't. The Dynamic Duo Max really isn't a post. It's just sort of a layer. And then as you roll forward, you have a very consistent platform through the midfoot, and then you get onto that bouncy, soft forefoot. That's just the way I like a stability shoe. I usually run in neutral shoes. Anything that's overly posted, overly railed, I can't stand. The 27 I like quite a bit, but here we have kind of a less sharp feel. Maybe it isn't quite as fast as shoe, but it's definitely kind of softer, more sumptuous, and smoother. So it's really quite fine, this update. They paid a lot of attention to it. The upper, as I said, in the fit section, very, very good here. It's a fairly thick, I'm not sure how breathable they'll be, fairly thick, but it wraps both my narrow and wide foot just perfectly. There's no gusset to the tongue, so everything holds together. Our heel counter, I think, is lower than the 27, a little lower. You don't quite have that ASICS super kind of aggressive clutch, but you've got plenty of support to lock down the heel. So, who would I see this shoe for? Well, for me, it's the kind of shoe I like for recovery. I like a stable shoe for recovery. I'm almost always in neutral, but I like a stable shoe where I don't have to think about form. I do like it soft, but if the soft leads to instability, that's really not good. And I especially like to have a shoe that allows me, and we do have that 33-23 drop here, so we have a big drop that allows you to flow forward easily at slower paces without having to kind of get past the heel. And here, even with the stability elements, there's no problems whatsoever of kind of flowing forward. In terms of the outsole, they've changed the geometry a bit. I think it contributes to the softness and the smooth toe off. There you can see the Trusttic plate, and instead of kind of wrapping the sides, you can see where it comes out here. It used to wrap up. Now it just sort of extends through. Absolutely not noticed. I didn't notice it at all. The only thing I noticed a bit was the plastic extended rear exoskeleton on the medial side. At first I thought it would bother me, but I think as the shoe's broken in, I'm hardly noticing it at all, but it's still there. And that I'm not sure what ASICS is up to there. They haven't said beyond, making it stable, but it also looks a bit like what's done by some of the others to kind of also give the knee a bit more stability, but they're not claiming that, but it probably has some of the same kind of intentions. So all in all, you're not going to speed along in this shoe. It's not designed for that. It's designed to give you a very plush, premium ride in a stability shoe that kind of adapts to not only people who overpronate, but more neutral people like me. It's $160. It goes on sale in June. It has the stack height is, for the men's, is 33-23 full stack height, and which is kind of low in the front, but the cushioning is plentiful. For the women's,
3320, so more drop for the women's, and also available in wide as with the men's.
ASICS has gender-specific geometries, and they usually have more drop for the women. They've done studies at their Institute of Sports Science around the needs of women, particularly the Achilles. So that's why the geometries are always different, which is good for them to have worked on that. So we're going to have a full multi-tester written review real soon at Road Trail Run. But the Gel-Kayano 28, following kind of in the footsteps of the excellent update of the Nova Blast 2, it refines the concept of a kind of guided stability shoe that doesn't overly prescribe but kind of adapts to the runner's needs, both neutral and pronating runners. I think it's a really fine update. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to our channel, and we've also linked the Nova Blast 2 video review, and you'll see a link to the written review. That would be a nice faster days complement to this shoe.